Today, there has been a strong retort that has been made by the Prime Minister while he was during a public address in Madhya Pradesh. Now, what he has spoken about is in direct retort to what Rahul Gandhi comes out in attack of the BJP and Narendra Modi. He's spoken about how the constitution of the country was the handiwork of Baba Saheb Ambedkar. And it was the first Prime Minister of our country, Nehru, who ended up taking all the credit. And he also mentioned about the Bharat Ratna that was not bestowed upon Baba Saheb Ambedkar up until 1990 when the Third Front came to power. Now, in this narrative war that we talk about, which has been peddled for some time now by Rahul Gandhi, whether he is in India or any part of the world, whether he goes to Cambridge or he goes to Oxford or he is in some US university, there is one continuous statement that comes, this narrative that comes, that the constitution is being destroyed by the current government. He says that there is democracy that is being annihilated by the current government. And in this narrative war that is being played out, I'm going to list down a number of these figures and statistics in terms of the number of times the amendment of our constitution has been changed since independence, under whose rule were the maximum number of amendments brought into the constitution. With regards to the vibrancy of democracy in our country, how many times and by which all prime ministers of our country in the past have maximum number of presidents' rule been imposed in different states? So let's start this conversation. I would have ideally liked the Congress to have joined me on the telecast. I'll request again my guest team to reach out to the Congress spokesperson or a Congress leader, because without a Congress voice, this will be an incomplete discussion. Meanwhile, let me get an advocate, Manasvi Thapar. And Advocate Thapar, let's actually look at this salvo that has been thrown by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Rahul Gandhi. Now, amidst all the narratives that are being built by both the parties, whether it is the Congress or the BJP, the constitution war has been amongst the primary topics that have been raised. Now, is this just mere optics, just mere narrative wars, and it is not really of much merit? Or do you really think, going back in history, taking a look at the numbers and actually intelligently decipher that one government was quote-unquote more dictatorial versus another?
So the best part of being in India is that no dictator can ever come in our country, be it Prime Minister Narendra Modi or Indira Gandhi ji or anyone, or Jawaharlal Nehru at that particular time. No one can become a dictator in our country because our constitution is so powerful. Our institution, however weak the parliamentarians would want them to be, but they are much stronger than anyone could believe. And further, the people of this country have always been awakened. It's not about this time or the past time. So I'll give you an antidote of our history. So Jai Prakash Narayan ji was the greatest grassroots level leader India have ever had. In 1962, after the third Lok Sabha election, Jawaharlal Nehru ji was behind Jai Prakash Narayan ji to become the deputy prime minister so that he could lead the country in the future. There was no chance of Lal Bahadur Shastri ji or Indira Gandhi at that particular moment. So he chose not to become the prime minister or hold any political position from independence till that day. So, and they had family relationship with Jawaharlal Nehru and his family, and obviously with Indira Gandhi. So this particular person, when emergency was brought in, he became the crusader against the emergency. So any time in this country, if anyone or the people in power think they are bigger than the people or bigger than the constitution, there would be some kind of uprising in the country, and they would be thrown out. And the art of this democracy was such that Indira Gandhi was thrown out from the power and she was again brought by the people. This is what democracy is all about. And coming back to the present day times, I don't feel Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a person, he's one of the greatest Prime Minister India have had, and presently the greatest political person presently alive in this country. He does not have so much of power to become a dictator. So the narrative for the opposition suits that, because any particular person after Jawaharlal Nehru who have won, he's not won the third mandate as of now, but closer to that mandate is Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So then this becomes an opportune time for the opposition, while their cards, their planks of narrative of winning an election is not fitting. So this becomes the another dictatorship idea of picturing Narendra Modi in that picture. But I don't feel that is possible. Why? Because India's constitution, India's people are so strong in terms of not letting, we would be like a sleeping voter, we would be like sleeping citizens, we just pay taxes and sleep over. But that's not the case. When it comes a time when we have to be awakened in terms of saving the democracy of this country, everyone have woken up in that particular time, and everyone has given their time, energy, and money to save the country.
Yeah. But then, is there a peddling of a narrative? And what is it that the people of the country, the voters of the country understand from it? And then are they able to differentiate the wheat from the chaff?
See, we could not say, see, there is the touch of dictatorship could be, as per you and as per me, could differ. For example, that recent video of Mamata Banerjee ji and Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, the outcome of both the leaders were quite different. So one would feel that Mamata Banerjee went out and made sure that the police is behind that particular person, and Narendra Modi ji accepted it and took it as a humor. So this shows the personality tilt of a dictatorial person and a person who's okay with these kind of memes. So this is something which is on a persona front.
Right.
So in the persona front,
and in terms of the figures, now when I take a look at these statistics and the number of times president's rule has been opposed and the number of times under whose prime ministership that this presidential rule was imposed in the states. So Indira Gandhi between 1966 and 1977, there were as many as 35 times that presidential rule was imposed. And then once again from 1980 to 1984, there were 15 times. So this is 15 times. So in total, there are 50 times that Indira Gandhi, she was in fact the only prime minister in the country with the maximum number of presidents ruled. So, but is this then reflective of the kind of prime ministership that she heralded for the country?
No, I don't think so. There were different reasons for that presidential rule. Also, one was there was a war between Pakistan and East Pakistan then, and she was very instrumental in dividing Pakistan into two parts. And there was a Blue Star operation also during that particular time, and that's why presidential rule was. So every prime minister had different set of strengths and weaknesses, and also different sets of incidents which happened during that particular time. Even Jawaharlal Nehru during his particular time had a presidential rule. Why? Because there were consistent war with Pakistan and then also war with China. So different situations require different action. That does not mean that just because I have, as a prime minister, had during my particular time had presidential rule, that means I am dictatorial. That does not mean. There are different situations for that.
Okay.
So there could be situations which are politically arm twisted, but there were situations which were working for the sovereignty of that country.
Okay. So then you know, when a narrative like the one that has been peddled by Rahul Gandhi, whether he goes to Cambridge or he is in a US university and he talks about how the democracy is quote unquote under threat under Modi, when he talks about the constitution is going to be destroyed if Modi were to come to power, he even admits that if the BJP were to win 400 seats, then the sole agenda of the government will be to destroy, to finish the constitution of the country. Is this just political? This is just political bickering that is happening. You know, this is the election season, and therefore you come out and speak these things because you have to be in opposition to the BJP, and therefore you say these things.
Megha, there are two parts to this. One is that it's only the future which will tell that after winning the third mandate by the people of this country, Narendra Modi ji turns out to be a dictator or not. Secondly, the idea of Rahul Gandhi that Narendra Modi is a dictator and there is no democracy left in our country itself is wrong. Why? Because he is allowed to speak this. He is allowed to criticize the Prime Minister that he may turn out to be a dictator. That itself shows that India is a vibrant democracy. So I don't feel just because Rahul Gandhi is saying it in Cambridge or in any other place, India is it's toiling towards a dictatorship. That's not the case. I feel Indian democracy is very strong, and that's why opposition leaders are allowed to criticize the Prime Minister, and we should be all the more happy to criticize the government and criticize the Prime Minister on policies which are against the country and against the people of this country.
Okay.
That's completely okay.
Okay,
So
Savio, I'll come to you.
Thin line.
Okay, Savio, I'll come to you. Now, in a situation such as this, and there has been clampdown of a number of media organizations, and that has been a ruse that has been picked up by the Congress and other opposition parties, demanding to know whether India still is a democracy or is the constitution under threat under the BJP. How is it that BJP justifies that the opposite is true?
Well, let's go back into the discussion of what you're saying. When you're talking about dictatorial behavior of political leaders, the individual which was categorized as a dictator, and the world looked at him as a dictator for a very long time, was Hitler. Now, if you go back into the atrocities that were done on the Jews during Hitler's reign, 6 million Jews were killed during Hitler's reign, during the Nazi Germany reign. That's point number one. The number two dictator that the world talks about was Idi Amin. Around Idi Amin's time, there were roughly again over 100,000 people that were killed, people who were his enemies. Now, when people call Narendra Modi a dictator, the only thing that he's dictating and ending and killing is the anti-national intent of most of the opposition leaders. Now, why do I say that? If you instances that you had presidents rule in this country, there were actually 134 instances, out of which 93 instances were when Congress was in power. Now, let's also accept that different times, different situations call for certain decisions to be taken by the central government at that point of time. But it was Indira Gandhi in her tenure that actually went about with one of the most drastic, one of the most saddest policy at that point of time, which was the emergency. Where was the freedom of speech during the emergency? Where was the freedom to do what you thought was right according to your idea of democracy? There were people hunted, there were people put in jail, there were people targeted because they didn't believe in a political ideology. That is dictatorial in nature. Today, Prime Minister Modi, when they call him a dictator, if you look at what he's done for the minorities, and you compare it with the UPA, I'll give you one example. If you go to the National Minorities Finance Corporation, in the UPA regime, 2,200 crores were given to minorities, which will be Muslim, Christians, or whoever come into that. During the NDA regime, Narendra Modi's leadership, 6,530 crores. Can you see the difference between both?
But like you said, the amendment, I think the first amendment that was made by Pandit Nehru when he was the Prime Minister, this came out in 1950, and there was an amendment that brought for curtailing of freedom of expression, right to speech, because of a number of criticisms that he was facing within the media organization. So Manasvi, the same point, because when the Congress comes in power, it has a different way of looking at things. Whether it is about Nehru's first amendment that was curtailing on freedom of speech, or at the time of emergency when there were newspapers that were shut down, there were journalists that were put behind bars, and at a time when under Modi government there have been certain instances that media organizations, journalists from a certain section have been questioning, have been raising this issue of the freedom of expression being curtailed.
So the basic idea is that Constitution is a living document. It keeps changing, and it's completely okay that during a particular Prime Minister's time there had been amendments, and I believe in the future also amendments can happen and will happen. As per the 2024 understanding of generation of India, there would be changes which the constitution would require and should require. There is no doubt about it, and it's okay to have amendments, because we cannot have a rigid constitution. We cannot have a constitution which is like a stone. We need to have a constitution which is flexible as per the aspirations of people and what they want to do in the future. So that's how constitutions are built and rebuilt.
Yeah.
And it's completely okay that and we should be proud of our constitution, that it's a living document, and let the amendments happen. There is no.
Do you think the emergency was required? Do you agree with the emergency?
Savio, I don't know where do you come from that point. And on the contrary,
No, I'm just asking.
No,
We're debating
you are asking.
dictatorial
You are
habits.
asking. It's a useless question, but since you have asked a useless question, I'll give you a fruitful answer.
It's not
out
a
of it.
useless question.
Let-
It's asking
it's a
you
useless
whether
question.
you
It's a
agree with the
Well,
dictatorial habits.
I mean,
of
fair
India.
enough. I mean, there has been suspension of all constitutional
Megha,
rights that come with a person who is a citizen
Get
of
to
the
the
country,
point,
and there
man.
was emergency that was imposed. And again, questions can be raised. In fact, there is a huge criticism that comes forth as we look back over what happened during the time of national emergency that was imposed.
Criticize. Savio, your useless question answer is it has been criticized by me.
You
and
would
the
never
world.
be on my show if I was an anchor, Mansvi. But anyway, answer the question.
You are no more an anchor. He got 331 votes in Goa.
Forget
That's
about
it.
what I got. Forget about what
Okay,
I got. You never even
I
contested.
don't think you need to bicker over this. It's a very sensible question that has been asked. And Manasvi now was not talking about, he was not talking about the overall, he was just talking about the generic way how the amendments are to be brought in, and it is for the health
his
and the
question was
progress
a useless
of
one,
the
but
constitution.
No,
Yes,
your
there was
answer
about
is
national
useless.
emergency, and he himself has agreed that the emergency that was imposed under Indira Gandhi's era was something that was to be looked down upon. It was draconian. It was a move that was dictatorial as well. I don't know why you guys at this point of time are arguing over, because both of you are talking about the same thing. Both of you are talking about the same thing. You are on the same side of the debate. There is no need to. There is no need to argue. Okay. I don't know if you've been able to. I don't know if you've been just paid attention to what I was saying. I would request both of you. I would request both of you to now hold your peace and let me get in. Advocate Chandni Shah. You got. Gentlemen, I would request you. Gentlemen, I'm being nice right now. I'll have to raise my voice. Savio and Advocate Manasvi, let's keep it at that. Let's end this over here. There is no point of discussion, or there's no point of contention over here. Let's finish this, please, or I'll have to request my team to mute you guys. I'll have to request my team to mute you guys. You're not leaving me with any other option. Can we please mute Savio and Manasvi so that I can get to the third guest over here, Advocate Chandni Preeti Shah. Now, the question that I ask over here, when attacks come forth against PM Modi and against the BJP, talking about how Prime Minister Modi acts as a dictator in the country, and the narrative that is peddled across the globe as well by the Congress, by Rahul Gandhi. Now, are they justified in saying such a thing? Do they have proof? Do they have the figures and statistics to then come out and justify it and explain and clarify it to the people of the world and people of India? And if they don't, then isn't a statement such as this that is made so casually in Cambridge or in other Ivy League university or any international platform akin to being anti-national, anti-India?
See, Megha, it's very funny when people like Rahul Gandhi, people like, Sam Pitroda, people of the left, they go out either in India or outside India, and they say things about India and, things about Narendra Modi, that he is a dictator and he, Tana Shah hai wo. There are YouTubers like Dhruv Rathi who makes every day videos on Narendra Modi with a tagline that Narendra Modi is a dictator. No one is behind bars as of yet, as far as I know. But I guess Manasvi pointed out, or Savio pointed out, that someone made a meme on Mamata Banerjee and Kolkata police sent him a summons over that. And today there was a meme that was shared on Narendra Modi, and he shared it, he reshared it with a, with a humorous touch to it. Now, when we talk about curbing of freedom of speech, today, they go out and they speak ill about India, that India is under a dictatorship, India does not have freedom of speech, democracy khatre mein hai. They forget that Rahul Gandhi forgets his grandfather brought great grandfather brought this first constitutional amendment in 1951, which is rightly pointed out by you. He was the one who curbed freedom of speech. It's not Narendra Modi who curbed freedom of speech, right? Number one. Now, number two, we are talking about Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar's constitution. When Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar was contesting elections two times in Bombay and in Bhandara, Congress fielded their candidates against him. They made sure that he did not win. And this is a claim that was made by Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar himself, that Congress made sure that he loses and he does not win. This is the kind of, this is, if we are actually talking about being dictators and being acting like dictators, this is what I see is dictatorship. My perception
Okay.
of dictatorship is this. UPA amended 80 times. The constitution was amended 80 times out of 106 times. That was done by UPA. The only time when the preamble was changed, socialist, secular, and integrity word were added, that was by UPA. The 42nd Amendment was brought by UPA. Emergency was brought down by UPA. 48 times presidential rule was imposed by UPA under the Indira Gandhi tenure. Who is being a dictator?
Okay.
A person who is leading India, who goes out today. Before 2015, I was, or anybody in the panel over here, we were like, yes, we are Indians, we are okay, we are proud of it, but we were not so open and vocal about it. 2000, after 2015, see,
Okay.
look at how India is
Fair
being
enough.
seen.
Fair
What
enough.
Modi.
Okay, the transformation that you say, what you are trying to put out is in 10 years, not just the domestic setup in our country has improved, but also when we go internationally, the stature of the country. This is what you're trying to convey. All right.
Definitely. I mean, come on,
I have with me
Megha,
Jimsa as well, and
you
Jimsa,
have to
quickly
be, you
coming to
have to
you.
be.
You've come in late into the discussion, but the point that I was trying to make over here, over the commentary that has been coming in, first from Rahul Gandhi and now Prime Minister Narendra Modi, targeting each other over the constitution and who's dictatorial and which regime has been dictatorial and which is the regime that is hell-bent on destroying the democracy and attacking the constitution of the country. Now, taking a look at statistics in the past, can the Congress and Rahul Gandhi really have a solid ground on putting forth their point that yes, Modi is dictatorial? Or is it just at this point of time, you are attacking the BJP, you would do anything, you could stoop down to any level to attack the Prime Minister, just because obviously it's a contest, obviously it's a high stakes battle, and you would leave no stone unturned to put the opposition in a quandary. You would want to put the opposition and show them in the bad light, and this is what you're communicating to the voters. Can you hear me, Jimsa?
I was slightly confused as to what to answer first. With regard
No,
to
I'm
your
simply
question,
asking, is this at this point of time just attacks that are being made by political parties just for the sake of it? Or is there more, credence to the statements that politicians make? Is there weight to the comment that is made by Rahul Gandhi when he says that democracy is under threat and the constitution is being destroyed?
So, all right, let's start with Rahul Gandhi first. What he said that the constitution is under threat from BJP or from Mr. Modi, if and when he returns to power, can be thought of as truth if he gets a brutal majority. And this is very important. It is very important if somebody gets a brutal majority, least of all.
Are you giving a precedent? Because Indira Gandhi, with her brutal majority of over 400, I think 419.
No, that was rightly mentioned by.
So are you saying is that why the dictatorial tendencies of Indira Gandhi came into being? And
100%, 100%.
So are you saying, why are you making comparisons? How does this ensure that because Indira Gandhi was dictatorial, brought an emergency, the same is going to happen when Modi comes to power once again and if he wins
So
over 400
I'm not
seats?
telling you just because Indira Gandhi brought in emergency and she had a brutal sway over
I mean,
things.
I don't think
I'm
we can
telling you
compare two things.
because we have a parliamentary just let me complete. Because we have a parliamentary democracy and because as per our constitution, we are supposed to have a prime minister who is the first among equals, not the be-all and end-all. We should not move towards a majoritarian or a government with an absolute majority because we will be dictated by the whims and fancies of one particular individual. Let that be Rahul
The
Gandhi
BJP already
or
has an absolute majority in
or
2019
or
with the number
Narendra
of
Modi. No,
votes and
what
seats
they
that
have
it
now,
won.
what they have now, Megha, is simple majority. They do have absolute majority. They do have simple majority as well. We need that kind of stability for our government in India.
But
With our
isn't the field
different-
open for the opposition to contest and fairly win seats against the government, against the BJP-ruled government?
Give me just
I mean,
a second.
isn't it
I'd
just
like
a
to answer-
fair battle that is being played out under the supervision of the Election Commission of the country?
All right, before I get to that, I'd like to answer a couple of things that was made by Chandni also. So to your question, yes, we should not have a government where they enjoy an absolute majority of over 400 seats out of 543. And this is my personal opinion only because we will have whoever that is, be it Rahul Gandhi or Narendra Modi on the other side of the spectrum, we will have dictatorial tendencies which our constitution does not serve.
Okay.
And we should
Okay.
wholeheartedly disregard it. One. Two.
Okay, so
Chandni had just mentioned that
then
there are
answer another question. If the BJP were to win 400 plus simply because the opposition is not strong enough, do you then suggest and advise that the BJP then forego the remaining number of seats just to go back to a number of 303 or more simply because you don't want an absolute majority? Like, is this how parliamentary elections work, or is it how any election works across the world?
See, honestly, I hope that were true. I hope the majority, the party with the brutal majority, would forgo the 50-odd seats that they enjoy just for the sake of a proper democracy. Give me 1 second, please. I'd like to answer
Quickly,
Chandni
30
as well.
seconds, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. We've had instances where our leaders from the opposition party, especially the Congress, they have made comments that are not very appropriate abroad. Let's take Rahul Gandhi, for instance. He's alluded to the democracy being in danger at the Oxford seminar. That is one. We've had Sam Pitroda discussing about the inheritance tax and all of it. I think we should also go back to 2014-15, if I'm not wrong, if my memory serves me right. Our Prime Minister then had been to Canada, and I remember very vividly that he had made a speech where he told that he was ashamed to be an Indian earlier. Now, that's not the truth for me. And this was all started, this back and forth, this mudslinging all started, as far as I remember, with a speech by Narendra Modi in Canada where he said it was not the best to be called an Indian earlier. I don't know who said that to him.
Okay.
Because I am born to a defense person. Excuse me.
Fair enough.
Give me just a sec. Give me just 1 more second, please. Thank you. Advocate Chandni had just mentioned a while ago that our panelists included are more somehow patriots now in post 2014 than earlier. See, I come from a family. My father has been serving the Navy for a while. I have my great grandfather who was awarded the pension for being a freedom fighter. I never felt less of an Indian until 2014. All right, and this new phenomenon that somehow Chandni has rightly or wrongly observed.
You feel you are less of an Indian. Are you saying you are less of an Indian? You feel that way since 2014.
For all practical purposes, include me.
I don't know if emergency was imposed during your lifetime, sir. I don't know if emergency was imposed during your lifetime. Maybe you should speak to your father and your great-grandfather. All right, I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.